Mike, I love exploring these big questions that seemingly have no answers. And philosophers like to talk about possible worlds in order to explore these questions. What are possible worlds?
Possible worlds are maximal ways things could have been. So it's sort of a grand way of talking about how things might have been. So it might have been the case that Almeida was taller than 5'5", okay? That's to say, in possible worlds talk, there's a world out there in which maybe everything's the same, Almeida's different. And whatever my difference would require among everything else, okay? So it's kind of a way of understanding or interpreting, giving a precise interpretation for modal discussion. Possibility, necessity.
Which is modal, possibility, necessity.
And anytime you use a able or ibble kind of talk, all of those are modal discussion, right? So all of those can be analyzed in principle in terms of possible worlds, but also things like obligation and permission. That's all modal talk too. It's not used as much, but it is. It's not thought of as modal talk as much, but it is as well. And epistemic modalities, and it's an incredibly useful way of understanding modality, modal talk, which comes up so often in philosophical discussion, right?
Because it's always what could have happened or what might happen or what would happen, all of these kinds of things under different circumstances. And to explore that, you utilize these different total states of affairs and comparing them.
Yeah, it's right. It's like David Lewis once described possible worlds as paradise for philosophers. That's what it is. It's like that's what we do. That's the area where we are worried about. Just as set theory is probably paradise for the mathematicians. They love that, right? Does so much work for them. And possible worlds does so much work for us.
Yeah.
You know, just in so many ways, just in analyzing so many notions philosophically.
Okay, now this applies to philosophy in general. It has nothing to do with theism.
No, it's true.
But now I want you to take me as a theist. When you explore theistic questions, you also use possible worlds.
Yes.
And you distinguish between theistic multiverses, which is one kind of thing, and theistic modal realism. So explain what each of those are and then what work they do.
Right. So let's suppose we're in a multiverse. Suppose that's true of the theistic kind. Right. There's all kinds of multiverses, as you know.
Right. So God created multiple universes, different universes beyond our space and time, whether through quantum physics or whether through inflation or who knows what, but multiple universes, whole states.
Right. So there's so all of those. Here's the strange thing about it. If they were true, okay, they would all be actual.
All be actual.
Yeah, so there'd be individuals in other universes, maybe not even aware that there's another universe somewhere else, or many of them. You may have counterparts, me too, in other universes doing different things. All part of one actual world. It just so effectively what the multiverse is saying is the actual is much bigger than you think. You know, it's not this locale you happen to be in the universe, which is big enough.
And that's consistent with modern cosmology in many respects. So, but the only difference then is you're adding the fact that God created these multi-universes.
Right. He would have done something like that. That this serves all kinds of theistic purposes. You know, to think of God having done this, and for all we know, that's what happened. Right. So there's the theistic multiverse, and then there's theistic modal realism. Right. So they're similar, right? But the modal realist part says there isn't just one actual world, there are many worlds. So each world is actual itself. There are many possible worlds out there.
And each world being a total state of affairs in which there may be multiverses in each one of those.
Oh, yes. Yeah, if you want to, exactly.
Worlds.
There's all sorts of epicycles you can add on this.
Right. So in each of in theistic modal realism, you have an unbelievable number of total states of affairs, total worlds, each one of which one may have one universe, one may have no universe, one may have, 18 universes, one may have infinite number of universes. So each one is a total state of affairs.
Yes. And what's distinctive about why is it called modal realism, right? Is because those worlds are concrete. I mean, that's what people find troubling or difficult to believe. Modal realism is that you've got to believe that you're in the actual world, and that's just one. There are concrete beings here, and that out in logical space there are other, perhaps multiverses, as you were suggesting, but all with concrete beings in them.
Right.
So all the possibilities are actually instantiated in various parts of logical space.
And the theory being that if God is really God, an infinite God is going to do infinite amount of stuff. And to do infinite amount of stuff, you have to do all of these possible worlds, all these total state of affairs, within which may be multiverses and everything else within each one.
Yes.
And they're all real.
They're all as real as this world is.
Yeah. Now, isn't that ridiculous?
No, I don't think it is ridiculous. It does a lot of, it's interesting to think about. So prima facie, it's ridiculous.
Okay, good.
So,
I'm glad. All right. Now we're on the same plane.
Yeah, it is. It seems like that couldn't be true, but it does a lot of work for theists if it turns out that it is true.
Okay.
Okay. So, for example, you got someone, just stay in our world for a moment. You've got someone on a beach, and he's got two people he can save. Okay. But he can't save both. It's a familiar story, right? Mm-hmm. He's a good guy. He's a good swimmer. He'd like to save both. He can. He's going to make up his mind. So just make both swimmers equally important, and it's not more important to save one. So he just, flips a coin, saves one, the other one drowns. No one says, you did something wrong. He says, what do you want me to do? I can only save one or the other. God's in the same situation, so say I. If there are, this theistic modal realism is true. Well, why? Well, he's in every world. Right? So if he saves a person here, it's inevitable. You can't save him over there. So he's like the lifeguard who can't stop all of the evil, right? Because what happens if you save this guy, then someone exactly like him in another possible world will not survive.
Because that's the definition of all possibilities.
Yeah, it's a genuine possibility, so it has to happen somewhere. So God prevents it here, it pops up over there. He prevents it here, it pops up over there.
But why then is your God a slave to creating all possibilities when some of those possibilities have extreme negativism?
Right. I wouldn't put it that way. I mean,
I'm sure you would. That's why I did.
I'd say, look, he just finds himself in a quandary. It's like saying to the guy on the beach, why are you a slave to this particular problem?
God's not got a guy on the beach. God's all powerful.
But he
God
is on the beach.
Everything.
He's on a huge beach.
He has he's surrounded by all these possibilities.
Yeah.
But but he's in charge of actualizing the ones he wants.
Not with the theistic modal realism, right? They're all actual.
Oh, wait a minute. So in theistic modal realism, you're saying that God has no choice.
He just finds himself with all these possibilities. He says,
but you're actualizing them, finding the possibilities. I agree with you, but you're saying God is affirmatively actualizing, making them real.
No, he's got to do so. Okay, on theistic modal realism, it's necessarily true that there are these worlds with concrete beings in them. So if you want to think about God having to do it, that's one way of talking about it. But really, he's got no choice.
He's got no choice.
Every possibility has to be realized somewhere. He can't, right? There's no way he can prevent that from happening. So in a way, when he engages in behavior over here, trying to prevent the possibility, here's a possibility. Almeida's drowning. I'll stop it here. Almeida's counterpart drowns over there. He's got to drown somewhere, right? Because that's a genuine possibility.
Right.
So am I preventing it? Look, if I'm preventing something, it's something that could have happened, right? So that's modal talk too.
Right.
It's happening in some possible world over there. So he's just really so if you think of it this way, the total amount of evil and the total amount of good is unchangeable.
Right.
If that's right.
And that helps you believe in God?
I think doesn't help me believe in God, but it helps me solve certain important metaphysical problems.
It can explain why there's evil in this world.
Definitely.
But yes. It also has to deal with worlds that are total evil.
Well, it depends on what you think is possible. So you think, oh, well, are there worlds like that? I'm willing to go with what you think is true. If you think, well, there are worlds in which nothing happens but extreme suffering all day long for everyone, and then everyone just dies.
And that's a possibility. Yeah.
Well, I uttered the words. I'm not sure I described the possibility. You might say it sounds like it's possible, but it isn't really.
Right.
So
some things you're saying are conceivable and not possible.
Yes, certainly, right.
So some things are conceivable but not possible.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, God has no choice for whatever is possible is going to be actual.
It's going to happen at some world, right? So this is the dilemma that God faces. some world or other, it's
Good,
going to
I'm
happen.
glad he does.
Yeah,
I'm glad he has
it's
some
like the rest of
dilemmas.
us. I think it's nice. Yeah, I think it's good too. So you can kind of sympathize with our situation. You know, nothing I can do. I prevent it here. I know what's going to happen over there. If it's a genuine possibility, right? So again, looking at all of logical space, it really helps resolve these problems.